I want to say thank you first to everyone for joining. And this is Savvy Senior Real Estate Resources. And we have an awesome guest today. Her name is Alex Parrish. She goes by June. She'll go by Alexandria, and I know her as Alex. And Alex is a really good friend of mine. She is well versed in all things senior related. And so, Alex, if you will, just tell us a little bit about you and um, your product line.
Okay, excellent. Thanks for inviting me. It's very nice to be here. I basically have been working in the senior living industry since 2011. Actually, a little bit before that, I was doing some workshops on the VA aid and attendance, which is a benefit that seniors can use for home health and for assisted living. So I was doing workshops all around Virginia on educating people about that. A lot of people don't know about that benefit. And through that, I was invited to become a sales and marketing person for one of the communities in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And I did that for a little over 3 years. And then my husband transferred to North Carolina, and I worked a little bit here in the independent living community. And then basically have realized that what I loved about my job was really helping families solve the problem of kind of the next steps and what are all the options available. And I felt like by being in a community, I was kind of limited to providing all of those resources, because obviously the goal is to have them move into wherever I was working at the time. So I decided to just go independent and become basically a lifestyle consultant with all things senior. So now what I do is I have a lot of preferred vendors that I've really built really great relationships with.
Mm-hmm.
And they are senior move managers, which can help you do everything from downsize, find movers, storage options, to if you want to stay in your home, what are the safety features that you can do to basically modify your home so it's safe for you to stay in that environment. I just really have built over the years. There's a lot of people in this industry that have a real passion for making seniors just really have the ability to thrive in whatever environment they choose. So I basically can come in and speak with the family about the very beginning, and where I partner a lot with people like Stephanie and other realtors is they sometimes, along with your financial planners and your estate planners, are some of the first contacts that families think of. And they might reach out to their realtor and say, it's not safe for my loved one to stay at home anymore. What can we do? And really and truly, even though Stephanie does have a senior designation, which gives her a lot more, well, not to mention her background in working in the senior living industry, but so she's very well versed on, kind of the challenges that seniors go through. So, but what I have as another piece to it is I'm really a mediator that can come in where Stephanie might be the resource for, what's the market look like if you need to sell their house, and all of those pieces of it. Where I really come in is I work very closely with you and your loved one on finding out what it is that would best fit your needs. And that's a lot of time spent on why the home may be safe or may not be safe to stay in. I do have another certification, which is a senior home safety specialist. And I actually can do a walkthrough and have it's 6-page sheet that I can basically say why it is or is not safe to stay at home. And the modifications that would need to take place in order to stay there, I can provide that as well. So I'm kind of that. I consider myself like a mediator as much as I am just providing you all the most resources that you can to make an educated decision on next steps. I don't know if you're there. Do you want me to keep talking?
I think that is absolutely perfect. You know, I pulled you up on my phone, sorry.
That's all right.
um, we all need to understand and know that there are people that specialize in helping seniors, regardless if it's getting into assisted living, finding the appropriate independent living, how to move from one place to the other, how to downsize, the challenges. And you seem to have found that niche in being able to merge the love of seniors and keeping them safe um, into a business with Zenful care and life. So can you tell us a little bit more about the Zenful community that you have formed?
Yeah. One of the things is, let's just say there's a lot of traditional options out there. What the new um, boomers are basically doing is they don't want the traditional care that's out there. They don't want that. They want better options and they want more options. So they are really driving what I call doing at a very, very young age is they're being very proactive in managing their care so they can thrive throughout their senior living years. With that being said, when I say traditional, you and I come from that traditional background where you either need home health, assisted living, or memory care.
Right.
And now we find people that are really taking a holistic approach at a very young age in their 60s and 70s. They don't just go to the doctor for a bump or bruise, they're kind of exhausting everything else. Which now there's a lot of great holistic options out there. If it's, going to not just traditional physical therapy, but finding out like what's the root of the problem and how do we address that so I can actually fix it and not necessarily take a prescription that's going to help with pain or a prescription that's going to postpone, leading to surgery or something like that. And I have been very fortunate to kind of organically come into some relationships with people in a community. It's in Mooresville. It's called Soulful or Soul Awareness, Soul Wellness. And there's a lot of practitioners there that do a lot of options that you could stay in your home because you're able to, let's say, prevent from having knee surgery, hip surgery, and not being able to move her and use a walker and things like that. There's ways that you can actually, long before that happens, be proactive and prevent that from being something that you have to live a lifestyle as. So I have kind of in that world thought, wow, this is what was really missing with me in the traditional options was I was dealing with people who were coming to me in emergency situations. Mom fell at home. She's in the hospital. She can't, they will not discharge her. She cannot go back home. What do we do? Do you have availability? We've been to many places and they don't have, a room available. And that really bothered me because you should be living your life where you want to be, not where you have to be because you don't have other options. So it started in 2019 for me that I wanted to figure out how can I educate people so I can prevent that from happening. And I can really get them to start thinking about this long before they need it. And what if I, am suddenly single? Or what if I need a walker in my home? And, that's just really where it clicked for me that I wanted to be able to get out there and talk to people before there was an emergency and to educate people on how you can have complete control of the options and the way that you can live a zenful life and thrive, not just it's you, and Stephanie, you can relate to this. We see it a lot in the traditional option out there. It was a badge of honor to stay in your home as long as you could. And the residents in our communities wear it as a badge of honor that I am 86 years old and I stayed in my home until I was 86. And what I would say to that individual and to their loved ones, but how many years did you live a quality life in that home? And how many years did you go from maybe the 10 rooms in your house using 2 or 3, which was your living room, your kitchen, and your bedroom? And what was your socialization like? And what were you eating? How were you eating? Was it, oh, I'm hungry, I'm gonna have a few crackers and not worry about it? And so, yeah, but what was your quality of life? So now it's like, and I love the word Zenful, and I don't know that it kind of came to me when I was working on a business plan of mine, but your years should be not that I held out and I stayed, in this one space as long as I could. It should be I lived my years that are it's the reward, right? For everything that we do with work and family and children and all of those things. The reward is I should be living and thriving, not just here's what my few options are and this is, I guess, where and how I'm going to live.
Yeah,
And so
just
that's really where it
existing.
kind of came together for me. And I'm in the very new stages of having my own independent business, and I'm still kind of like, it's very fluid. I'm working on my business model, but I'm very excited about how things have opened up. And there's so many people out there that really want to kind of have the same thing I want, and that's to provide people and educate them on living their very best life and all the resources that are actually available to them. And I can see you now. And we're both wearing green for March and getting ready for St. Patty's Day.
You know, not being tech savvy and just trying to make all of this work, it's a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, I know. It's fun.
Tell me a little bit about your relationships with move managers.
Well, I used them and had to use them a lot in the community because there is a expression you're aware of in our industry of possession paralysis. So people are paralyzed by the fact that I have so much stuff and I don't know what to do. So they do nothing. Well, that is making a choice. It's not a good one. And so what I had to do in my previous, job was I had to remove all of the options and all those obstacles. And so senior move managers, it's a designation that they have, and there's an actual national association of senior move managers. And so I did the research in the Charlotte market on interviewing some of the top people here that have their own businesses. And I worked with them at an independent living community in Matthews that had 300 apartments. And so I needed more than one resource. So I picked kind of the top 3, and I presented that whenever someone said, well, I have too much stuff, I could never move into a senior community. And I said, okay, well, let's look at that. And here's 3 people that you can call, and they'll tell you what they can do. And basically they can do as much or they can do as little. I mean, you can literally sit in your chair in your couch and be a guide for them to physically go through all of the stuff and break it down for you on donations, what you're taking with you, what you're giving to family, and then even the I don't know pile that you can all put aside while you constructively take care of the things you do know, and then reapproach that on what are your options. Estate sales, obviously, huge piece of that as well, because we have a lot of our clients that are really not only downsizing, but have, some very expensive individual items or collections. So senior move managers, that's all they do. They have teams of people that come in, and I have been invited to go on a job with a couple of different senior move managers to see what it looks like so that I could truly speak to it. And it is remarkable how well organized. I mean, now they have shows on TV about it, about how to organize your closets and this and that. But they could take my client from a 4,000 square foot house, downsize everything, and then actually set up their senior apartment so that when they walk in that day, they're going and getting a coffee cup for their morning coffee, and they're able to pour a glass of wine. And, so it's like they are set up and ready to go.
Isn't
So
that
it's just a phenomenal resource that you can have the help out there with as much or as little, but there are people out there that specialize in removing all of those obstacles and limitations.
isn't that just amazing compared to where we come from
Oh yeah,
in our background,
yeah.
and how quickly the person adjusts?
Mhm,
Even if, like now,
mhm.
we are discussing a different way to do things,
Right.
it's more of having that person acclimate
Mhm,
to their new surroundings.
mhm.
Change is hard for everyone, but with the move management piece of it, the adjustment is just instantaneous, more or less, versus a 2 week to a month adjustment,
Right.
which then creates a lot of stress for the family, a lot of stress for the person moving, and it's a game changer.
Yeah, and so there's two different pieces to that. So just like you mentioned, the beautiful thing is there's a relationship that's developed, because it's obviously you're talking about some of people's intimate treasures, and those move managers have a passion for that respect of, we know the sentiment around this. We're not just coming in and boxing up bookses or boxing up china or boxing up, I mean, this is your, from your family, from your ancestors, or maybe a loved one that's passed, and this was something that was very sentimental and important to the two of you. And senior move managers are educated on how to approach those things, because trust me, they see a lot of tears, they see a lot of anger, they see all these emotions that go through with every item that they're talking about or touching or moving. And so they have a way, and they develop this relationship very quickly with their clients, and it bridges that gap, and it makes that transition, instead of doing it alone or being out there doing something that you don't necessarily understand, or you're basically in the emotions of it, and they can kind of come along and do the mechanics of it, but still be very respectful of the emotions and the process.
Tell me, are you just seeing people here in the Lake Norman area, or do you travel?
Oh no, yeah, I have been all over the place. So that's mostly my friends and family and previous client referrals. So I've gone a lot to Florida. I've gone a lot to Atlanta because that's where I'm from. So I have a lot of family that call me up, and these are friends, and they're like, I don't care what your relationship is with your family. When you start talking about moving them out of their house, you're all of a sudden not their favorite anymore. And so with people that, I mean, they're very close, they've had to tell, listen, mom, I'm hiring an expert to come in and talk to you. And, my friends will say, I don't know if she's going to talk. She said, there's no way she's moving. And so the difference is coming in and having a conversation from gentle approach of listening. And that's one of, I think, the most important things that I do is I listen, and I hear what's truly fearful. Okay, there's a lot of fear with moving and change. And when you start to talk about some of those and breaking them down in a sense of, yeah, everybody, that's normal that you would feel that way. But let me tell you the stories of all the people that did do this and where they are now and how they have absolutely blossomed and they are living this just thriving, wonderful life. And what would that look like for you? You know, what would tell me how that would feel? And you start removing from that adult child who's having to be all of a sudden they're the parent. And that's very difficult for a parent to hear from their children. So I kind of come in as a mediator as far as that goes. And like my clients in Florida, when I go there, depending on if it's an area I know or don't know, I'll stay for a few days and go around and really do the visits to the communities or some other options so that by the time I leave there, they know exactly what all their resources are, pricing, senior move manager, so they have everything to make the decision to move forward.
With regards to timing,
Mhm.
how long from the time you get the call until the time you're in the home?
It really, that's so individual that the only thing that I can say that's probably consistent is that by the time they usually call me, they have to make a decision quickly. So they've been having those conversations. They've been having to, gently make these approaches. And by the time they contact me, they have to make a decision. There's a trigger. Something has triggered this that we can't do this anymore. So by the time I come in, people are ready to make that move. And what usually comes next is, and my realtor resources are a huge benefit because when we start talking about, and I bring together packaging as far as what pricing looks like and everything, the next is that going to be? So once I usually come in there and they get that piece of information, then everything is in a forward movement.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit, if you don't mind, about going in and making sure that they are safely somewhere, staying in their home, and getting their home to where it needs to be.
Well, and for some people, that's just absolutely, they're gonna not make any other choice but that. So there are ways that you can definitely go in and modify the home. So in that piece, when I do my walkthrough, the things that I'm looking for, I go from the biggest to the smallest details. Details as minor as door pulls, drawer pulls, ways you turn on and off the shower. When you later in life, that becomes very challenging. So in the traditional models, they already are thinking forward, obviously, on people that may have arthritis or other issues. And so you can do those modifications in the home. The first and foremost, before you can move beyond anything else. And of course, just like anybody else in an industry, when I go into a house, the first thing I see when I pull up is my glasses are on, right? And so I'm like, oh boy, look at those steps. And then I go into the garage and I'm like, oh boy, look at those stairs. And look at the width of this doorway. And so just the simple things. Now, by the time somebody gets a list of, and this is the whole piece of it, is how much it would cost you to stay in your home, as opposed to maybe selling your home and going to a patio home that already has the modifications. That's for the individual to decide. My job is to give them the resources, the companies that can do the modifications. um, and I had that hat on when I even bought my house. I'll give you for instance, is I do have a stepped entry. I have a stepped entry in my garage. So what I would have to do if I ever was in a situation in my family where we needed assistance with a walker or a wheelchair is I would put a door in my garage, and I have a level lot that I would have a poured area that I could go around to the back of my home, and then I could completely live on my first level. So those are the type of things that for somebody who wants to stay in their house, when we start talking about if all your living space is upstairs and you have a very difficult staircase, do you want to put an elevator in? Do you want to do the, chair that goes up and down? So when you start really educating people on what would have to be done for modifications, sometimes it's very simple to go, wow, I really need to just look at another option. And then for those who can make the modifications, they can stay there sometimes, and not ever have to leave the home, because home health obviously and hospice can come in and help with making that staying in their home a very viable option. So, it's not like when they see me coming, it's like, you're going to move and sell your house and you're never going to be here again. I don't want to be that person, because there are people that are just downright not going to move. And so let's make that as safe as possible.
You made a huge point there. You and I are so used to walking in and being very critical with that critical eye. What do I need to do to make this safe?
Mm-hmm.
And we can give all these options, and then we're presenting it to your client,
Mm-hmm.
and once we get over their fear
Mm-hmm.
of why they need to leave and get to the root of it,
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot of tears.
Mm-hmm.
There's a huge eye opening or an awakening.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are turning to that adult child.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about um, getting that adult child who has already made that call
Mm-hmm.
to get you there,
Mm-hmm.
but then to take the next step, because sometimes they go into fear.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on that?
So you're right. I mean, my call, the majority of the time, is going to come from the adult child. Very seldom do I get someone who actually calls for themselves. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. It does happen. But so the adult child really is reaching out for, they're exhausted with all resources, right? At first, you've heard the phrase, we've got the sandwich generation. So they have young children, but then they're taking care of their parents, and it gets to a place to where it becomes a time when they have to make a decision, and they can't do both, and they can't do both well. So at that point, they reach out for assistance, and the adult child is like, listen, I've done everything that I possibly can. I need somebody who can help me figure this out. And so by coming in and being the resource, and again, I'm not the bad guy. I'm the educator. That's all I'm doing is, and it takes sometimes, and to be honest with you, I love that challenge, because I love the challenge of, oh, you're here to tell me, who do you think you are, Missy? And all those good things that I have to kind of break through all of those things. And I love that challenge, because when you develop that trust and that, you know, relationship, that is what really motivates me so much, is providing that calm, the solutions, the options, because that's the fearful part, is like, the fearful part is the not knowing. And the fearful part is hearing stories of, what happens to other people when you don't do anything. So when you come in and say, listen, there's a huge group in this, your peers that are doing this, and they're doing it well. don't you want to be one of those people who are doing it well instead of somebody else coming along? I want to arm you with everything you need to make the best solution for yourself. And I think many times what happens is with the adult child not knowing, because it's not a world they have had to deal with. And, we hear so many people that walk into the community and we take for granted because we've been doing it for so long, but they have to learn a whole new education on verbiage they've never heard before, and FL2s and assisted living, and what's the difference with memory care and active adult, and home health, and what do they do, and what does insurance pay for, and what is private pay. I mean, can go through a whole list of these things. And they're frustrated because they really don't have time to educate themselves. So that's where people like ourselves come in, and it's second nature to us. So it's like, you go do what you need to do and let me, help you with all the resources that are out there. And then you decide what's best for you. And again, it's that I love that relationship and the bonding that occurs when you can just provide people with easy solutions and options, and it makes the process so much better for them. I'm not saying we remove the emotions that come along with it, but the benefit that we see is that that adult child gets to become the loved one again, and they get to become the daughter, or they get to become the son, and they're not the caretaker, because that's the difficult role. Is I don't get to go in and talk to mom anymore about the trip that we took to England, or the time we went to Disney World, or I have to come in and, mom, what'd you eat today? Did you take your medication? Mom, why are the dishes, or why are the lawn? It's like, that's not the way that you want to spend the time with your loved one. So let's do something where you can become that daughter again, or you can be that son again. And that to me is what motivates me every day to do what I do.
Those adult children, and I'm going through it with my significant other's mother living here with me. And she is here. She is 85, and we're going through all those emotions. And I'm writing a very fine, thin line, because he doesn't understand. This is all I've ever done.
Right.
And trying to merge and bridge the gap there and educate. And what you said was so valuable just there. You're giving them back their life.
Mm-hmm.
You're explaining what we need to get them safely somewhere, or to stay in their home and bring in services.
Right.
And get it where everybody is happy and taken care of. And yet at the same time, they go into paralysis as well,
I have to turn on
because
my light. I'm listening. Oh, there it goes. See, it's motion detected in my office. So it just went off. Now I'm back.
they go into paralysis as well, because they're on overload.
Right.
And what is so necessary is for education to start and people be open to what's next.
Right.
And that's why going and doing the speaking engagements and sharing pieces like this are so important, so that you're not in that 911 mode.
Right.
After something horrible has happened.
Right.
We are running out of time. However, I want to say thank you. I do think we need to get together and have a couple of more of these discussions.
Sure.
And if anyone out here has a specific item that you would like to discuss with Alex or myself, and know more about a topic within aging in place, or going into care and what care type and where to look for assistance, you can always reach out to me. I will have Alex's information in the comments when we post. and you can feel free to reach out. I know Alex would be happy to help you. And if you guys need anything, we are always available. So thank you so much, Alex, for coming on
It was my
and
pleasure.
sharing
Thanks for
with
having
us.
me.
You have been a wealth of information today.
Thank you so much. All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.